Yong Vui Kong adalah seorang anak muda yang telah ditangkap semasa 19 tahun dengan dakwaan menyeludup dadah sebanyak 47 gram of heroin yang telah dengan itu telah dihukum hukum mati gantung gantung di Singapura. Bersama saya adalah Encik Ravi, peguam untuk Yong. Dalam proses pembicaraan kita telah peguam telah cuba mendapatkan pengampunan dari Presiden, tapi malangnya kerajaan Singapura telah mengambil satu sikap tidak membenarkan, bukan saja tidak membenarkan pengampunan, tetapi juga mengeluarkan statement yang agak prejudis yang mengakibatkan pengampunan, proses pengampunan ini tidak dapat dijalankan. Saya sebagai ahli parlimen dan bersama beberapa ahli parlimen atas pendirian keprimanusiaan, kita telah membuat usul ini dan juga merayu kepada kerajaan Singapura untuk menimbang semula hukuman mati ini. Kerana anak muda ini hanya di 19 tahun, sekarang sudah 22, dan beliau telah cuba memperbaharukan diri dan sekarang menjadi seorang pengandut Buddhis dan menjadi seorang Sami Buddha yang juga cuba untuk mendapatkan sokongan dari masyarakat supaya tidak digantung mati. Saya harap kerajaan Malaysia akan membuat sesuatu untuk meminta kerajaan Singapura bagi atas pendirian keprimanusiaan juga mengampunkan dia supaya tidak digantung mati. Saya telah juga membuat satu pertemuan, belum lagi membuat pertemuan, sudah membuat satu appointment dengan Kementerian Luar Negeri. Harap Kementerian Luar Negeri akan mengambil tindakan untuk membantu kita.
It is not merely on compassionate grounds that the Malaysian government should do something about this matter, because both Singapore and Malaysia has mandatory death sentence. So that I know will not really be an appealing issue for the Malaysian government. Although the Malaysian government, as well as UMNO, as well as PAS, I understand, recently have appealed to the Chinese government when a Malaysian girl who trafficked 2.9 kg of heroin was sentenced to death in Beijing. They appealed on compassionate grounds. Yong Vui Kong had only trafficked 47 grams of heroin as compared to 2.9 kg of heroin by Umi, a Malaysian girl. So in the same spirit, they could interfere, or rather appeal to the Singapore government using all their diplomatic channels, given that Singapore is just next door compared to Beijing. If they could interfere and appeal to the Beijing government to get 2.9 kg of heroin charged when the Malaysian girl was facing, what is 47 grams, and given Yong Vui Kong's very serious, exceptional circumstances that he faces, given the fact that he was 19 years old when he was charged, given the fact that he comes from Sabah, from a family which is a broken family. His mom is a slave to, there's a Chinese terminology that they use, Tong Yang Si, which means, you know, they give the girl like a slave to the family which she's married to. She's a dishwasher. She just earns 200 ringgit a month, and the whole family is split. And Yong Vui Kong was just 9 years old when he came to KL, and he was misled and he was into wrong company, and hence the big boss had, the so-called big boss for the drug trafficking, and made use of him. So he was basically a victim. As much as we want to protect the country from drug trafficking, what we have to understand, this young boy, this teenager himself is a victim. That is a compassionate ground. Whether the Malaysian government wants to take this up, it's another issue altogether. But let it not be mistaken, I am here, I've come to Malaysia for the third time in the last 3 weeks after the first press conference in Malaysian Bar Council, which was held on 10th of June. Of course, Suaram, Amnesty International and Lawyers for Liberty have organized this. But after that, the momentum died down. And now we have Chowking from the Selangor Chinese Assembly. That was the last time when I came last week. I was very dejected because before I came, the Malaysian High Commission said the Law Ministry and the Foreign Ministry is very keen to meet me. And I followed up with the letter. When I turned up at my own expenses, that was the same week when Singapore government leaders came here for their own trial. I get a reply say that there's no interest. What I'm surprised is that the Malaysian government does not even take an interest to find out what's happening to the case. I am here at my own expenses and I've come here all the way for my client. Not that I'm trying to flatter myself, but it is an important matter of life and death. This boy stands to be hanged next month if we don't do anything about it. But the serious issue, the legal issue that I would like to raise is that, as what Mr. Tien Chua would have highlighted, his final relief right now, the Court of Appeal have already argued, they have already said that he's sentenced to death and it's over. As like your practice, there is a clemency process which is available to him now to ask the President to grant clemency. Before he could even file the petition, the Singapore Law Minister, and this has never happened before in the past 50 years of Singapore's history, has said that Yong Vui Kong cannot be spared of the death sentence. Before even the Court of Appeal delivered the judgment, that same week, the Minister has spoken and mentioned Yong Vui Kong's personal name. So this I am arguing, and of course I have legal opinion from London. Lawyers from London, Queen's Counsel, are very keen to help Yong. They can charge like $10,000 an hour, but they have come pro bono, free of charge to help him because they can feel the outrage and injustice right at London, but I don't see the outrage in Malaysia. When your young boy is tend to be hanged. So before we could file the clemency petition, the Law Minister says, look, he doesn't deserve to be spared the death penalty. So we are arguing that the clemency process is flawed. I can't go and present the clemency petition because the Cabinet has already prejudged, because the Cabinet advises the President at the end of the day. So how could you say that he cannot be spared the death penalty and then ask us to submit the clemency petition to the Cabinet? So therefore, Yong has a legal right. Number one, his legal right, next week I'll be filing an application in the High Court of Singapore to challenge that the clemency process is now flawed. Therefore, the process is no longer available to Yong and his death sentence should be commuted. That's the only avenue they have. They cannot pretend and say that you submit the petition when they have already made their mind. What is legal right that Yong has in Malaysia? The Malaysian government can file a complaint before the International Court of Justice, which Germans have done, which other countries have done. Here is a legal redress, not just on compassionate grounds you appeal. Your citizen is injustice in Singapore because of this. You have a duty to protect him, and by filing a complaint International Court of Justice. First of all, the greatest injustice is they don't even want to meet me. They're not even interested. I mean, thank God, with Tien Chua's involvement and Chowking's involvement, now at least the Deputy Foreign Minister has expressed interest to meet after this. And this motion was rejected today because it's an emergency motion. But next week, Parliament is going to also end its session. So how are we going to advance his cause? And Malaysians, I am very sad to say that they don't get equal treatment like Filipinos, Indonesians, Beijing people. I am very disappointed even the way the Malaysian High Commission has treated this matter when I attempted to speak to them. I leave it to the Malaysian citizens and people here and the parliamentarians to engage the Singapore government through its diplomatic channels as well as the legal right which is available to Yong. I can't exercise that legal right. That, of course, with the courts in Singapore. His legal right is in Malaysia is Malaysian government should file a complaint in international justice and obtain a stay order until this matter is resolved.